All right, so today on the farm we're doing all kinds of different stuff, and it's been a while since we've made a video, so we're going to try to cover all the things we've been working on between our last video and now, which has been quite a bit. Springtime on the farm is certainly a real busy time, so I apologize for not getting more content out, but it's kind of the way it goes, I guess, this time of year. So anyways, right now what we're about to do is we're gonna let these cattle out onto a field that we typically would cut for hay, and we haven't even taken a first cutting off of this. And you might think, why would you do that? Why would you take perfectly good hayfield and let your cattle graze it? And that might sound a little crazy, and maybe it is, but I think for us it makes the most sense, and this is why. Typically we would have to cut this for hay so that we can have enough hay to get through the winter with the number of cattle we're going to have. This year we've been able to find enough off-farm hayfield lease or rented ground to be able to make hay somewhere else, and then use this hay ground as our cattle pasture. So that's really exciting. Also, this is mostly alfalfa. There's a lot of alfalfa. There's a lot of orchard grass. There's a lot of other grasses in here, but it's probably 50% alfalfa and 50% grass or something else, fescue, what have you. And you might say, why would you feed such excellent quality pasture or hayfield to your cattle? And I think a lot of times the logic around that is, cattle will eat anything. You should just put them on the whatever ground you have, and they'll go out there and eat it. And then, try to, a lot of times people also say, you hear this a lot. Folks will say, oh, well, this hay didn't turn out quite right, or it was kind of weedy. We'll just feed it to the cows. We won't make it for horse hay or whatever. We'll just feed it to the cows. And I think there's some truth to the fact that cattle are more tolerant to eat maybe less desirable hay, less desirable hay crop. But I also would argue or point out that I think a lot of times if you think about the folks that are saying, oh, you can feed anything to cattle, they may not also be producing kind of top quality beef. And so for us, we're less worried about maybe the efficiency or the amount of return that we can get on our hay, and we're more worried about trying to produce the best beef product that we possibly can. And so that starts with making excellent hay, but then also in the grazing season that we're in now, we want to graze them on top quality pasture, and an older hayfield is going to be kind of in that category of top quality pasture. So anyways, these guys have been really patient. I'm surprised they didn't moo at me. They must think I don't realize they're there. I know that they want to get out here. They've been watching me put up this temporary fence, so we better let them out and get them grazing, and then we'll go take a look at the hayfield the pasture they were on, and see what that looks like. So you can kind of see what we left behind, how much was left over, that kind of stuff, and then we'll start looking at some other projects that we've been working on. So anyways, let's let these guys out. You guys hungry? Huh? You don't want to come out? You want me to just leave you in here? Or are you just being good because I'm about to let you out? Which is it? I'd say as a cattle owner, this is probably the best sound you can hear is cows munching fresh pasture, and they're not mooing at you. There's quite a bit. We probably put them on about 3 acres of hayfield here. We've got them sectioned off with a poly wire, or a poly twine, I guess you could call it. I don't know. Basically, we've unrolled a reel of wire here, and we've got them on about 3 acres of pasture. And their water source will be what it was in the old pasture. We haven't, in the process of putting in a water line, that's not yet complete. So when that's complete, we would normally be able to shut this off, or I guess when it is complete, we would normally shut that gate off and give them a new tank so they're not able to backtrack onto the old pasture. But for now, this is what we'll do. Hopefully in the next couple weeks, we'll have our new water line complete to the point where it's in a usable state. So here's the pasture we took our cattle off of. You can tell there's actually still quite a bit of grass left over, and that's okay. You don't necessarily want to graze your pasture down to where it's like only 3 inches tall, because that's going to affect your regrowth. And so maybe this is probably a spot where the pasture is higher, taller. There's some spots where they did graze it probably closer to that 4 to 5 inch height, and so we wanted to get them off of this so this stuff can come back. So you can see in here, I don't know how well this will actually turn out on camera, but you can see there's some spots where they've grazed it, you know, pretty low. If you can see my boot here, but then right next to it, you know, there's some spots where it's still got some decent height. One thing that's been nice about this year, we've had plenty of rain this spring, which is awesome. We really love that we're getting lots of moisture. It does give us some challenges as far as some of the projects that we wanted to do are wet, and we'll get into that in a second when we go look at the trencher. Makes trenching in some of the spots pretty tough because it's pretty boggy. I'm also building fence. Some of the spots we're building fence in are pretty wet, but we'll take it. We'll work through the weather. Better to have, you know, a wetter spring than a drier spring. Dry is what we had last year, and we just couldn't grow a whole lot of pasture. So this will actually bounce back really quick. I think the cows were only on this. This is like a 3 acre pasture. They weren't out here for more than 5 days. So they did leave quite a bit. But that's okay. That's what we want. This will grow back fast. We'll probably be back on this 30 days, 45 days from now. We'll be grazing this again, which is what you want to do in the spring, is move them across real quick, and then come back later in the summer when things are starting to dry up and be able to get it again, you know, still early in the year. All right, let's go look at the water line we've been working on. So here's one of the projects I've been stuck on. We are currently trenching in about a 2,000 foot water pipeline, which is intended to water our cattle. We're going to have 4 hydrants on that, and we're about 700 feet into our trenching, so we've got quite a ways to go yet. And once we made it this far, we got about 2 inches of rain over about a week-long period, and that really put the brakes on this, and we had to transition to another project briefly. And it's just now getting to the point where it's dried out just enough to be able to keep going on this. So we're going to wrap up pounding in some corner posts and building some braces for fencing, and then once that's done, we'll get back over here and try to get this pipeline put the rest of the way in. One thing I will show a clip of here in just a second is our spool jenny that we built back in the wintertime, unrolling 1-inch poly pipe. That thing worked awesome. We did have to do a couple modifications to it, made the support braces a little bit longer and made it stand up a little taller, But after we made those modifications, man, that really worked out well for us, and I was real glad that we had it. My kids were able to drive the UTV and unroll the poly pipe while I held on to the end and kind of kept an eye on things as it was going. So that worked out real good. And like I said, I'll show a clip of that to kind of do a recap on that earlier build video that we did. Let's talk about a little bit about this this Vermeer trencher. So we bought this Vermeer trencher last year, knowing that we had a lot of water pipeline to put in. So December timeframe, late December timeframe last year, we installed about a 3,000 foot long water pipeline on the north end of the property, and we used this trencher for that. So now we're putting it back to work this spring. We bought this thing, you know, I guess it would have been earlier so spring of last year. We were able to get it cheap because it was in real bad shape. So it had a lot of small issues, but the main issue was the transmission was shot. So all of the gears, and I'll grab some pictures of when I tore that thing apart, show you what those gears look like. But all the gears just had their teeth stripped off of them, knocked off of them. And being that this is an older transmission, this is a T96 transmission, and it would have came in like Old Willys Jeeps or Studebakers. Those were the common applications for a T96 transmission. Anyways, it was real difficult to find parts for that. Some of the Jeep parts would fit, some of the Studebaker parts would fit. We ended up having to order parts from a lot of different sources, and even had to have some parts come over from the UK. And most of those weren't new stock; they were new old stock. So stock that was, you know, would have been created around the time these transmissions were actually being produced, and then put on the shelf and just never put in use. So we were able to get, you know, new parts, but had been on the shelf for the last, I don't know, 50, 60 years or so. And so we were able to get this, the transmission put back together. It was my first time rebuilding a manual transmission. Wasn't that difficult. Had a good time with that, that build. In fact, I would say that build is one of the reasons why I started putting stuff on YouTube. When I tried to find a video on rebuilding a T96 transmission, there's nothing out there. If you try to find a YouTube video on doing a rebuild on a 2-wheel drive, you know, T96 transmission, you just won't find one. And I was able to rebuild this, but I should have documented that, because for anybody else out there that's rebuilding whether it's a Vermeer transmission or a old Studebaker transmission, I think it would really benefit you to see somebody do it and record the process. So anyways, let's talk a little bit more about what this trencher does, how it works, and then I'll show a clip of us actually doing some trenching. All right, so this trencher comes with a 6-way blade, kind of like you might find on a bulldozer, although much smaller. It's 4-wheel drive, and when I say 4-wheel drive, I mean like a true 4-wheel drive. Our four tires have got traction when it's spinning, and then it's got this auger on the back that is just absolutely sunk in the mud right now. That's gonna be fun to get out. But anyways, this auger is what is digging our trench as we go along. All right, so the way this drive works, so that shaft is coming directly off the transmission, and when this thing is in auger mode, it couples directly to a gearbox that drives the auger. So you're basically transmission power straight through to the auger. So you can shift this lever right here. This shifts and goes to that front cog if you want to go into transport mode. That allows you to drive it around at a lot faster speed than you would be able to do when you're trenching. And then when you're in trenching mode, what drives the tires, so if you can see, it's actually over here. Way down in there, there's a hydraulic motor that has a pulley, and that drives our drive wheels, and that hydraulic motor gets fluid from this valve right here. So the forward and reverse, there's a hydraulic pump that's belt driven off the engine here. That creates hydraulic pressure, goes through this valve that determines whether forward or reverse, and then goes to the hydraulic motor that's in there that's driving our drive wheels. Because obviously if you're the transmission is coupled directly to the auger, you can't also be coupled to that to drive the wheels. And then this lever here, this controls a hydraulic flow valve, and this determines when you're in hydraulic drive how much hydraulic fluid actually gets to the hydraulic motor. So faster up, slower down. That's what that's how that works. All right. One thing that this trencher doesn't have that was an option on some of these trenchers is a front mount backhoe. So that's what this valve here is for. You might find a trencher model like this is a V434 trencher where they would have a backhoe mounted right up here. Still the 6-way blade in the front, but in addition to that, you could get a backhoe mount on the front, which would be, had I found a model that had that, I'd be pretty happy. That would have been nice. But this, for what it is and what we're doing, this works great. So yeah, so what do we have to do this? Like I said, we had to rebuild the transmission. It's got a Perkins diesel engine. We've done nothing to that other than I had my son change oil on it. That thing's been great. The charging system doesn't work, so we just jump it every time we need to run it, which isn't that big of a deal. We did put 2 new tires on the front. Rear tires are original. This back right one doesn't hold air very well, so we put a little air in that every once in a while. And then it seems like, every 4 hours operation, we blow a hydraulic hose. And so we get to replace that. But it's like, I don't know if it makes sense to replace all the hydraulic hoses on this machine. It probably needs them all replaced, but we kind of just fix them as they break. That seems to at least be working for us for right now. So anyways, here pretty soon we'll be get a little bit of standing water still out here, but here pretty soon, probably this weekend, we'll be back at trenching our water line, and we'll see how that. Hopefully we can get this thing done. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the next thing we're working on. All right, so this is the other item we've been working on. This is our Shaver HD8 3-point mount post pounder, and we've been using this to put in all of our corner posts. So we are currently in the process of replacing a lot of existing barbed wire fence with a high tensile electric fence. The barbed wire fence that's installed on this farm is probably in the neighborhood of 50 years old, not including the improvements I've tried to make to kind of make them good enough, but really they're just not cutting it. And this year we're kind of making an effort to replace all the existing barbed wire. I don't know that we'll get it all done, but if we can get 75% of the barbed wire fence replaced this year, I think that will really be a big improvement for making it easier to make smaller sections of pasture for cattle and having a better ability to do some rotational grazing. So if you're not familiar with one of these Shaver HD8 post pounders, I'll throw a clip. Maybe after this we'll go over and we'll pound some post in, because I've got about 4 more left to do for this field. We'll get some post pounded in, kind of show you how this works, and let's just do a quick walk around here and kind of overview of how this is set up and what we've had to do. All right, so here's your hydraulic operating station. This is a to pull back to lift this up, push down to send it forward. You can adjust the angle and tilt of this with these 2 levers here. So this one pivots the unit left to right, and then this twist in and out to shift the unit forward and back. Basically what this construction is, just a big I-beam that's on a roller frame. So this frame's got some wheels that ride in it, and then this big I-beam with a kind of a pounding head are on there. Real simple construction. The whole thing mounts to the tractor's 3-point hitch, and it takes a single hydraulic input, and then this larger hose, actually it's really important, this ports back and dumps right in the top of your transmission sump. So you wouldn't be able to evacuate the fluid out of that cylinder, this hydraulic cylinder here. You can see it. This hydraulic cylinder here fast enough when you're trying to get this thing to slam down fast, a pound of post in. If you were trying to send it through the return on your tractor's inlet and outlet hydraulic ports. So you get pressure from the hydraulics, but then the return is directly back into the sump. So we bought this post driver from a farmer on the east side of the state. He kind of was an older farmer that was getting out of the business, and synced up with him. He said, yeah, I've got one of these in my barn, not using it. You know, I'll give you a good deal on it. Come get it. So we did have to do a little bit of work when we first got it. This hydraulic cylinder that's in that lifts this I-beam had bad seals. So we replaced the seals on this hydraulic cylinder. And then it also didn't come with the pull down springs. Let me see if I can show you that. So there's springs in there that pull that I-beam down as the fluid's being let out of the cylinder. Those springs were not on the unit when we got it, so we needed the extra pounding force with the kind of ground that we have here. So we put the springs on, we changed, you know, repacked that hydraulic cylinder, and other than that, it's been pretty straightforward. So yeah, glad to have it. This has been a great unit for us. We pounded a lot of posts in. Let's go put this thing to work and show you guys how it functions. All right, Jay, so what do you got here, bud?
A pig.
You got your livestock trailer?
I got a pig. Right?
Yeah.
I'm pretending.
Oh, okay. Hey, so what was your job for unloading pigs, buddy?
Being a doorman. In case they won't stop, I would do it in the back. They won't push, I'll kick them in their back.
Okay, so you were the doorman? So what was Dad's job for this?
Catching the pig.
Dad's job was catching the pigs. And how do you think Dad did at that job?
Bad.
Bad? Why?
Good.
Good. Okay,
Yeah,
why?
The pigs are bad. The pigs are naughty.
Oh, the pigs were naughty? Were they squealing?
They hurt my ears.
They hurt your ears? They scare you a little bit too? And then what was your job? Keep the pigs in until Dad was ready to bring them out? Yeah. So what happened with that? Did we make sure they all stayed in until it was time to get them out? We got one got away. Okay. What do you think we could have done better next time?
Dude, in case they don't stop, kick them in the face, then back in.
Kick them in the face. That might be a little aggressive. Maybe we'll just stay standing in the doorway until they turn around. I think you did a pretty good job.
Have a good idea. Instead of holding the door, maybe you can put some type of board fits through here and fits to there.
Yeah, I think we could have had some kind of chute system set up, and I think that would have made it go a little bit better. Maybe next year we'll try that.
Yeah, maybe next year. Maybe today we can get a chute system.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds reasonable.
And maybe today we can get a new livestock trailer.
Okay. Well, this one works pretty good. We just put a new floor in this one. So this livestock trailer we borrow from a neighbor.
No, I know his name.
What's
Clarence.
his name? Clarence. That's right. We borrow this livestock trailer from Clarence, And last year we put a new floor in it. This floor was getting a little soft. And so, you know, anytime I borrow something, I try to not just return it better than it was, but like if there's something that needs fixed, I tend to try to fix stuff. And I think that leaves my neighbors pretty happy with loaning stuff out, because typically they'll get it back and it be in, you know, both real good shape, and then also if there's something broken,
When we get the Ranger,
you know, we'll get that fixed. All right, let's show them the pigs, bud. So here's our new arrivals to the farm. These are pigs that we picked up this morning and brought back. We've just got them in this small enclosure for right now. Reason we're doing that is just to kind of get them to chill out and kind of slowly introduce them to their new environment. So our hogs are going to be raised outside the entire time we have them, and we just use a combination of high tensile electric fence and electric hog netting to keep them in. So there's not any kind of physical barrier, just the electric. So we need them to be introduced to that electric fence in kind of a controlled manner. So we need the hogs to be introduced to their environment, specifically the fence, and a bit of a slow and, you know, not real high stress situation or time frame. So we'll leave them in here overnight, and we'll probably let them out in the morning. Like we mentioned a minute ago, we actually had, so there's actually 15 in this enclosure. These hogs were born mid-February. We'll be processing them end of September, middle of September. We've got 15 in here. We originally bought 16, and in the process of getting them unloaded from the stock trailer into this enclosure, we had one slip out the door and not into here. So he's in the pen, you know, with the electric fences around, but he's not in here with the rest of these guys. So we put out a little food dish for him. I think with, you know, the fact that all his buddies are in here, he's probably not going to go too far or try to run through the fence. I think he'll probably still be here in the morning. But I do think the chances of him running off are low. But if we were to try to chase him and catch him with not being really used to electric fence, the chances that he would run through a fence trying to get him back in here is probably better. That's probably more likely than if we just left him alone. He'd probably be fine. So I think that's what we're going to do. You'll be seeing more of these guys. We'll show the water system here in a second, and then we'll also show how their feed is going to be set up. You know, with hogs, they're omnivores, so you've got to give them a ration of, you know, some type of grain ration. In our case, we give them a 18% non-GMO corn and bean ration. And all of that is fed through a gravity feeder, and we'll show Phil on that here real shortly. Anyways, we'll stay tuned, and we'll get some shots of these guys. Hey, Jace, can you tell everybody what this is?
This is a water tank.
Water tank for what?
For pigs.
How do they drink out of it? How's that work?
Here, they stick the tongue in there and do this.
That one's dripping. How about like that one over there? Turn around and face me, bud. Okay, so you push in on the null nozzle and then the water comes out. That's pretty cool. And then how does it stay full?
Check this out.
Yeah, look, so it stays full because there's a float valve in there, and then that runs off of one of our frost-proof hydrants. So this is what we're using for our pig water. We've used this for the last couple years, and it sure beats Holland water or anything like that. You know, we can just put this on a float, and it stays full, and the hogs have plenty of water to drink. There's 3 different heights, so there's 3 different nozzles on there at 3 different heights. So as the pigs grow, they're stable to reach in. Now, I'll mention this. This is the one area where the pigs will kind of erode it a little bit. And so this area out in front of the water that's kind of downhill typically will get kind of dug out.
So it's the next day now, and we are releasing the hogs from their enclosure. So we're taking this barrier down that shuts off the doorway, and the hogs have somewhat found their safe location inside this little hut we've got for them. And so now, when they do find the electric fence, which is obviously going to get their attention, they're going to have a safe place to retreat back to. If we try to just let them into their pen the day we get them and have them hit that electric fence, it's hard telling what they're going to do. That odds are they're going to either run through it or next thing you know they're going to be a couple counties over. So having them locked up overnight certainly does make quite a bit of difference, and I think it kind of takes the stress, some of the stress out of training them on electric fence. Makes it a little bit easier for us. So that's going to do it for this video. I really appreciate you guys sticking around till the end. Hope these projects that we're working on seem interesting to you, and I appreciate any kind of all the positive comments we've got in our videos, or people that have reached out to us. It's really helpful to kind of stay motivated around this. And if you're not subscribed and you're enjoying the kind of content you're seeing, please do hit the subscribe button, or give us a thumbs up. And if you see certain aspects of these projects that you got questions on, leave us a comment. We see all those, and we respond to all the comments and questions that we get. So anyways, we'd appreciate your interaction with us here on this platform. Anyways, thanks again for watching. We'll see you again next time.